This is Steve Ridgel, and I want to take a few minutes and talk a little bit and reflect a little bit about the horrific flooding that happened in the hill country of Texas just a few weeks ago. It's been a little bit of time to process it now, and it was horrible and gut wrenching. And there were so many things for believers that were incredibly painful in that. The camp, the Christian camp with all of the young ladies in it, horrific, washed away, so many deaths, and the death toll kept climbing, and you prayed for people to be found alive, and some were and many weren't, and it was just horrific. And so I've had a little time to reflect, and so I want to share a couple of things I've thought about. One is that kind of thing happens every day all over the world. Death toll of 50, 60, 70, 100, all over the world every day. There is somewhere that lost 100 or 150 or 3,000 lives. It happens all the time. Now, it's incredibly impactful for us. I live in West Texas, and the counties just to the south of our ranch were under the flood watch. And we all knew people in this part of Texas who were involved, who lived in the hill country, or who vacationed in the hill country, or who were visiting in the hill country when this happened. One of the deaths was someone that my wife went to school with. And so all of that is just, it's personal that way. But I thought a lot about God because I need to tell you two things. One is I believe some of the people absolutely were saved by God's intervention. Angels, God, whatever. You heard those stories that were just staggeringly amazing of how God must have protected someone. And I give God the glory for that. And I know people pray, but I've also got to tell you this. Here's the flip side of this. There were people that prayed that God didn't answer the way they prayed. Now, if they were believers, I believe they would not come back for anything. I truly believe the people that were believers that perished in the flood are with Jesus and they are happy. But still, people prayed and the prayers weren't answered in the same way. And I think we need to be honest. So let me just share a couple of reflections about that. Number one, it's okay to ask those questions. God, why did you answer this prayer? Why didn't you answer that one? Why did you say this person? Why not that one? Why did you let some of your people perish and people that didn't believe in you got spared? And God, I think those are all legitimate questions to ask. God's not afraid of our questions. But number two, I do believe this. God is sovereign and he is above my understanding. I mean, for me to say, God, I'm not asking a question. I'm questioning you. And there's a difference between asking God why and questioning God. God, how could you? I've heard people say, I don't know if I could believe in a God who. Okay, when you say that, you're setting up, here's what I think God is. And if God doesn't fit in my box, I'm not going to believe in God. I don't want a God that fits in my box because, frankly, I'm not smart enough and powerful enough to run this world. And so there are going to be things that happen. And as a believer, I can't explain them. I don't know. I don't know why God answers some prayers the way he does, but I believe this, God does answer those prayers. And so I believe God's ways are so far above us. The other thing I want to remember is all this is not God's fault. God didn't do this. We live in a fallen world. From the time that man rebelled against God and got put out of the perfect world, the Garden of Eden, from that time on, we have lived under horrible conditions. There are earthquakes, tsunamis, floods, fires. Those are horrible things. There is sickness and there is death. People die. And it's because we live in a fallen world. And that didn't even count the consequences to all the sin done in this world by people. The abuse of people, sexual slavery and abuse of the poor and racial inequity, all those things that are not the way God designed it. And that didn't even count, your sin and my sin where we contribute to this stuff. So I don't understand a lot of things. I think it was horrific. We prayed a lot at our house for people to be found and spared. We celebrated the stories we read of where it looked like God intervened, and we hurt for the people that lost loved ones. It makes us reminded. It reminds us to talk to more people about Jesus. It reminds us that life is short. It reminds us that God is in charge, and I'm not God, and I won't understand it, but I'm going to trust him. This is Steve Ridgel with a few of my thoughts on what, for this part of our world, was a horrific time.